Hey there, my name is Shane Craddock, and this is the Inner Edge podcast, where I share a different take on how to lead and live a sustainable high-performance life. Over the course of different episodes, I'm going to challenge the belief that tension, stress, and struggle are essential to success and creativity. My experience is that there's an easier way, there's a better way, and indeed there's an essential way that we need to explore for the times that we live in. So let's go ahead, let's jump in and explore. Hi there, welcome to today's episode. It's been inspired, I guess, by some conversations over the last couple of months where I remember making a little note to say I must do an episode at some point on the podcast about ego, because it kind of came up in relation to initially having a conversation with a very good leader, and they had kind of started a conversation by saying that I don't have an ego. And we're maybe a little bit surprised and perturbed in their mind when I said, no, you definitely do have an ego. Now, everybody has an ego. And I guess that's what I want to talk about today, a little bit, and explore. Because there's a phrase, I think, from a book that says your ego is not the enemy. And I'm going to challenge that a little bit. Like your ego is not the enemy if you build your self-awareness and your inner self-control. And actually, the ego is quite useful. I think once you understand maybe its function. Now, I probably would have been in the camp that would have seen it as a bad thing. I was talking to somebody recently where, again, they said, look, I don't think I have an ego. And I know what people mean when they say that. I think they mean I'm not egotistical or that my ego doesn't get in the way. But if you've ever been offended or experienced maybe a moment of hurt or perhaps even pride, that's a sign that there's an ego. And we all have an ego. Now, to me, it's just a bit like having a hand. You know, I have a hand and I can use that for good or I can use it for bad. I can use it to create or I can use it to destroy. And to me, it's the exact same with the inner invisible world, the world inside us, of which the ego is a part. I can use it for creation or I can use it for destruction. I can use it to my benefit or I can use it to damage myself or other people. What is the ego? I mean, there's a lot of different definitions. You can go on to the internet and bamboozle yourself with all the different definitions, but it's connected definitely to your personal identity. It's part of your I-ness, what makes you up. So Shane has an ego. Shane has a personality. Is that the complete me? Absolutely not. The ego seems to me to be part of the thinking mind. I mean, I would guess that for most people, when you hear, oh, look, somebody has a big ego, it generally means that they don't listen to anybody else. They think that they're right all the time. They maybe are detached from what's actually going on in terms of reality. And they want to be the best in the room. They don't want anybody else to be better than them. That's, I guess, where the ego gets a bit out of control. And that's the issue, is that it's out of control. It's not being managed well by the person. There's a lack of awareness and understanding about what it is, the fact that it's there. For most people, they don't even realize. Somebody who's a big ego generally won't even realize that they do and the damage that it's causing. And it's out of control. So the first thing that you have to realize is that everybody has one. Everybody has an ego. And it's down to how you use it. But there are useful elements, from my perspective anyway, about the ego. I mean, one of them is that your ego is very useful in preventing you from like acting on your basic urges. So say, for example, you're driving in your car, you're cut off in traffic by somebody, and your inner voice starts to get quite aggressive and, okay, it throws out the idea, let's chase this person down and let's attack them. But your ego, a healthy sense of an ego, will actually stop you doing something like that. It kind of helps to serve to stop those basic urges, especially if it's balanced. A good, healthy ego will help you tolerate frustration. It'll help you tolerate stress, manage stress, reduce stress. It'll help you postpone gratification. It'll help you resolve conflicts inside yourself. A lot of business owners who I would work with, you know, they will have a strong ego. And I'd encourage a strong ego, a healthy ego. But again, healthy to me is where I'm able to switch it off if I want to, or ignore it, or tell it to shut up. So, and just as an aside, actually, people that you would consider to be, let's call them spiritual. I've met some people over my lifetime who be seen as being very spiritual. All of them had a strong ego. All of them had a healthy ego, but they definitely had an ego. There's no doubt about that in my mind. But the ego, from their perspective, is under their control. They're managing it well. As it happened, I was watching one of the Creed movies, which is in the Rocky kind of franchise umbrella. And the central character, Adonis Creed, I think it was Creed 2, this the typical story with these Rocky type of stories. The first fight, the ego gets out of control. It's all about pride. They kind of start making mistakes. And then the character gets badly hurt. He loses the fight. But then his ego kind of wants to get him back into the ring. But Rocky who's his coach in the movie, helps him to come at the fight from a different perspective, to find out what he really wants to fight for, essentially to balance his ego. And so he trains differently. He takes a different approach. He adapts to reality, because the ego definitely, the ego is a barrier to reality, for sure. And so it's important that we kind of are open to exploring, well, hang on, what is reality? And that very often the ego won't want to see it. It'll block it for different reasons. Now, if we had no ego, I think it actually would be a major problem, because you need something there to help you, like to be the Creed, to take the hits, but to still go on, to believe in yourself, to encourage yourself, to be persistent, to be to persevere. And also it's that element inside us that helps mediate between our desires and almost our beliefs and our values. And it definitely seems to help you cope. It's like having an asset or the right type of Rocky type of coach inside you to encourage you. Yeah, I can do this. I can handle this. I'm built for this. I can succeed. That, in a way, is an ego that's managed. So it's kind of like it can be an asset to you, without a doubt. So here's a few questions for you. Like, for example, where might your ego be getting in the way? And are you willing to look for where it might get in the way? Because most people find that very difficult. But that's where the gems are. So definitely the ego will be getting in the way at times for everybody, including Shane. And then the other side, where might you be able to use your ego in a positive way? Like, where can you be like Rocky, being coached to Creed, to help you get back in the ring, to help you train a little bit harder, a little bit better, to help you persist, to help you take the punches, but still persevere. So the question for me isn't so much, how do I get rid of it, get rid of my ego? The question is, how do I get better at managing it? How do I get better at leading it? And that's where we move into the world of awareness, of self-awareness, anything that actually can cultivate your own sense of awareness. Now, just because you're aware you have an ego doesn't mean it's managed. There are layers and layers and layers to it. That's why I'll always encourage my clients to really embrace what I call inner work, where you are exploring the angles and the edges of what your ego actually is, how it interferes, how subtle it is, and then also how to use it. So bottom line, I guess what I'm saying is that for me, your ego isn't the enemy. A lack of awareness of how it works is. That's it for this week. Ciao for now.